Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Interview with a Vampire. Episode 3 is My Very Nature That of a Devil. Uh, I've been really enjoying this show. And for those that don't know, real quick, this is all based on Anne Rice's iconic novel Interview with a Vampire, and it follows Louis the Poignant, epic story of love, blood, and perils of immortality as told by the journalist, told to the journalist Daniel Malloy. So yeah, these are on AMC. You can watch ahead on AMC Plus, so you actually want ahead. But for our review schedule, we are sticking to what is on live TV. So that way we don't get ahead and don't really give out any spoilers. So episode 3 is directed by Keith Powell, written by Roland Jones and Hannah Moscovich. And as I mentioned, this is all based on the works of Anne Rice. In this episode, Louis grapples in a fight to retain some semblance of his humanity while struggling to identify the true nature of his identity of a vampire and the urges that come with it. Things escalate soon and take a turn for the worst. Yeah, I think this is definitely the most uh, the episode with the most impactful changes when it comes to really the lives of our protagonists here. We've been seeing so far Louis grow into who he's trying to be and trying to reconcile who he is or who he was as a man, reconcile that with who he can be as a vampire. But obviously, he is still a black man living in New Orleans. And has to deal with all the bullshit that really comes with that. This episode kind of brings that a lot to the forefront. So I really appreciate that this adaptation is taking the time to not only tell us a story that we definitely want to know. We want to know about Louis and Lestat, but we want to know also what it would have been like for a black man who is now a vampire, who is now has all this power and untapped potential, but society and the people around him still like there's still the prejudice of him being a black man in New Orleans. That really adds a very interesting layer of both commentary and just of things that happen in the show. So I think it's a very smart decision. I'm really enjoying what this adaptation is doing. So speaking of that, let's talk about the cast real quick because the cast has also been fantastic. So far, I'm only mentioning really three people, but there's a lot of supporting players. We're definitely about to get introduced to a new player probably next episode for those that are familiar with the story. So this show stars Jacob Anderson as Louis de Point du Lac. We have Eric Bogosian as Daniel Malloy, the reporter, and Sam Reed at Lestat, the Lion Court. Uh, I really love any scene that has both Louis and Lestat. Just they are they are really just making a masterpiece of it. Their relationship, the way they interact with each other. Lestat is such an easygoing but very passionate and strong guy. This episode really shows a lot of his strength when it comes to his powers as a vampire too that we probably hadn't seen in previous episodes. And then Louis as somebody that wants to be different. I feel like he still wants to be a good person, but like I said, there's a lot that's kind of going against him for this. So really, I mentioned this in my last review, but him trying to reconcile all the pieces of himself, being a black man in New Orleans, being a queer man in New Orleans, being now a vampire with all these powers, being able to read minds and know that even though these people pretend to be okay with him, it's all that stuff. It's his character is so layered, and I think Jacob Anderson is just really doing a fantastic job with the performance. Uh, the sets on this episode really come to fruition because there's a lot that happens. There's a lot more. I guess I would call them action things happening here. I love the effects when Louis or Lestat use their strength as well because it is superhuman, which is really unexpected. It kind of comes in little bursts, but I think the show is using them very sparingly but very smartly. And then lastly, this episode deals a lot with Louis and Lestat maybe trying to come to some kind of understanding that they will be able to step out of the relationship, but then all the complications that come with an arrangement like that. There's just so much going on. Like I said, there's there's the relationship between the vampires, there's the internal conflict within Louis, there's the societal conflict and the commentary there, and then overall there's just the whole layer of like, oh yeah, this is still a supernatural show, which and they go for it, they really go for it. I this is the first episode I watch from my DVR as opposed to on the app, this which is why this episode is a little bit late. But yeah, it's really interesting that they don't hold back on the broadcast TV as well. I was curious about that, although I didn't see. I'm gonna go back and rewatch this episode on the app because I don't recall seeing any nudity on episode 3, whereas we've seen nudity on episode 1 and 2. So I don't know if that's a thing with the network or maybe this episode just didn't have any. Um, so yeah, really interesting stuff. Make sure to stay tuned. The online version usually has a little bit of commentary from the creative team as well, which is really interesting. So definitely enjoy that. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen on the broadcast. We just go next into whatever's next on MC. But as I mentioned, we'll keep talking about this show because I'm really enjoying it. It seems that subscribers to the channel and people that watch this channel are also enjoying these videos, so I'll continue to do that as well. And as always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, and stay tuned because we have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here on the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye bye.